All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to True Poker Dealer's live stream today. My name is Mark, and I'll be your host for the day. On this live stream, we're going to be discussing whether or not a magician can beat casino surveillance. And about 2 months ago or so, Magician Macedo, who's with us here, came on my live stream and started asking a bunch of really great questions. And it turned into this, and I could not be more excited to do this. Throughout the live stream, if you have any questions, or suggestions, please put them in the chat and I will get to them at the end of the video. We'll go through those together. Although super chats do get replies right away. But before we get started, I do want to remind you to subscribe to True Poker Dealer if you haven't done it already. And also please subscribe to Masters of Cards. That is both of our channels here. And you should know both of us if you're here already. And me, just to be a little specific, I am, keep doing magic in the background. I love it. Do anything that you can to impress us. I love it. I am the founder of True Poker Dealer, and I have been teaching people how to deal poker from casino quality since 2011. I've been in the industry since 2007. I have a lot of experience, a lot of dealer experience, a lot of supervisor and shift manager experience as well. Helped open a room, all this stuff that goes into it. So this is why I was chosen by Magician Macedo to challenge to see if he can potentially beat casino surveillance. And we do also have a special guest today, and we'll tell you who that is in a second. But I am here with Magician Macedo, who has been entertaining us a bit. And could you please tell us about yourself and yeah, give us the goods here.
Hey, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here. Marc, thanks for having me. I was so excited for like weeks to be part of this live stream today. Just so you guys get to know a little bit about myself, I'm a magician here in Brazil. I've been studying magic for the past 12 years or so, and my main focus, my main expertise is a plain and simple deck of cards. And there's also my channel on YouTube where I teach magic. This channel has been going on for like 6 years now. It's the Masters of Cards channel. Unfortunately, it's just in Portuguese for the Brazilian people, which may be around the comments over there. I can see a few people commenting right now, Luca and Geisa and Isaac. Salve para todo mundo que está me assistindo aí, galera. Vamos que vamos. Just a little, a hi in Portuguese. I know you guys didn't understand nothing I just said. But I'm here with Marc's invitation to show you guys and share a little bit about card handling techniques that could be used for cheating at the poker table, right? Just to be absolutely clear, this is not something that we're going to encourage you guys to do. This is just for demonstration purposes only, just for entertainment purposes only, of course, since this is magic we're talking about here, right? So we're going to talk about all of the shuffling procedures and the card handling procedures that dealers do every day at the poker table, and discuss a little bit about what could be the cheating possibilities at each of those moments, what a crooked dealer could do at those moments, and just share a little bit about this knowledge for professional dealers, which is something that is very cool. I think that is something that professional dealers should know a little bit about. And just let's just have fun, guys. We're here to perform some magic, and it's going to be very cool.
All right, so thank you for that intro. That was wonderful, and thank you for introducing your audience to us over here too. Really excited about this. So look, you know me a little bit. You've watched some of my live streams, and you've been learning the regular casino procedure from the dealing standpoint too. Could you just talk about that for a second? What you've been trained on recently for casino dealing?
Sure. I've always wanted to work as a casino dealer because since I learned how to walk, I've always been passionate about cards and card games, especially because of my father, who was always at card games. He was very cool. So I learned that here in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, the city I live in, there's actually a special course that is made for dealers, right? Which is it's very elaborate stuff, and there's actually a lot of dealing opportunities here in Sao Paulo, a lot of poker houses. So I thought, whoa, this could be a very nice opportunity to work with something that I love, make some money out of it, right? And I started a course. The course is not very good. It's from a company called Dealers Pro, which you guys here from Brazil may have heard of, maybe not, if you're into that stuff. So I attended to the course. It's an online course with about, I don't know, maybe 3 hours of content, and a lot of stuff lacking. They don't tell you the whys of some stuff, the chip handling, the rack maintenance and stuff. A lot of stuff about the cards themselves. The course is just very vague. It just gets you kind of ready. It gives you a certificate so you can work at General Poker Clubs here in Sao Paulo. And I went on the internet trying to look for some more complete information, and then I was able to find Marc's channel, Truepokerdealer, which his content here on YouTube. Back then, when I did the course, there was no such thing as the YouTube membership, so all of the videos were just public. Just sit there and watch all that. I watched every video in a single day. I just just power bombed through all of that. It was so cool, and it was much, much better than my local course over here, and actually got me much more prepared than I would be if I just did the local course. So again, Marc, thank you for such a great content. It's amazing. And even being old, it really doesn't matter. It was produced like 8 years ago, 9 years ago. It really doesn't matter. It's top-notch quality. And if you're a dealer, you must watch his content, man.
Super appreciate that plug. This is going to be really interesting.
Over here.
So I take things really seriously whenever they're presented to me. Okay, this is my thing, casino poker dealing, right? And I take it really seriously. And so I love that you found me. I love that we're going to talk about this. And I don't feel like I can answer this completely on my own for everything that's related to it. So I have asked a friend of mine who is both in the magic world and also I have worked with, he's been a poker dealer for a while, to join us. And I'm going to bring him on right now. And we've got Joey over here as well. And Joey, you're going to be my helper here for absolutely anything that I can't answer that you have experience with. I have a ton of respect for you. And I just want you to say hi and introduce yourself for a second as well and say what you've done and who you are.
All right. My name's Joseph Di Pietro, and I'm also known as Big Joey Magic Showy. I'm a professional magician, and I'm out of the casino industry, but I was in it for 15 years. Started when I was 18 and just recently exited. And I've been doing magic since I was 8. And I went professional when I was 16, and it kind of helped me meet a casino dealer. And I was making good money in magic, but it wasn't consistent. And he decided that he wanted me to teach him magic, and he would teach me how to deal. So I ended up learning how to deal, and he told me, he's like, don't tell anybody you're a magician. He's like, when you go to auditions and you go and you do it, no matter if it's a live audition or if it's just with the pit bosses, do not say that you're a magician. So I was like, all right, cool. And it ended up going,
I gotta interrupt you. I gotta interrupt you and ask you. That's a really interesting point there that I sort of agree with. Right now, look, I'm never gonna advise anybody to do anything that is outside of integrity. But that said, if you're just trying to get a job in a place and you have integrity, I totally understand not telling anybody that you're a magician because myself as someone who's hired a lot of dealers, it's almost like you don't know what you don't know, right? And so from my perspective, it could come across as a little bit scary.
It's funny that you say that, because I did not listen to him. I actually, I wanted to show everybody my skills the moment that I could do it. And when I'm going to stop
you right there. We're going to save this story if you're about to tell it, because I want to hear this story in a little bit afterwards.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. You sort of mentioned it. I do want to real quickly just bring on Vegas Aces, Heather. She teaches table games just like I teach poker on YouTube. Also, you can find her on YouTube. She's the one that showed me how to do this whole setup. So I just wanted to say it's really cool that she's watching. I did not tell her that I was doing this. I did not tell her that I figured out how to live stream with other people. And it was all thanks to her teaching me how to do it. So I super appreciate that, Heather. Just wanted to put that up real quick. Okay, so we're gonna sort of get started here now. Okay. And the starting point that we had was, let me see, Magician Macedo. Why don't you sort of guide us through what you want to see if it can be beaten in casinos?
So I wanted to go through all of these steps of the shuffling procedure that a dealer must execute every time a hand is dealt, right? So if you guys are dealers, you may know what these procedures are, but if you are not dealers, I'm going to talk about them right now. Let me just drop the camera over here, just so you guys can see my table. I'm just going to go through the procedure real quickly. You should always wash the cards like this before each hand starts, and then you scoop up the cards right like this. There's also a little detail of this part over here where you square up the cards, and then you should shuffle twice like that. There's the boxing cut. There's another riffle. Then you bring out the cut card, and you cut like this. After you do this entire procedure, you should start dealing, right? So there are a bunch of stuff that happens before the hands, right? A bunch of actions that dealers must complete before the hands are dealt. And in each of these steps, there are a bunch of scenarios, a bunch of possibilities where a crooked dealer could cheat. And that's what I want to talk about to you guys today.
So you did mention that we might get into some dark area. So I just want to say real quick, okay, we're exploring this because it's amazingly fun, okay? We're not trying to tell anybody to try to do this. When it comes to surveillance coverage, I just want to remind everybody right now before we go too deep, they have the ability to go back and look at the footage in slow motion. They have 3 cameras oftentimes on any poker table with multiple angles. They have the ability to zoom in and get incredibly high definition. And so we are really exploring what we're able to do, and we're exploring what a magician would be able to basically get done without surveillance knowing. And we're also not saying to go do it yourself. Why? Because it's sort of the type of thing you only get one shot at, right? If you're using dealing to pay for your life and you're making, you know, I say it on my channel all the time, you can make between $25 and $40 an hour. Plus, as a poker dealer in the US at least, if that's what you're risking, and surveillance has the ability to study you and watch anything that they want going back, it could be really hard. You have to be so good, is the way that I say it. I mean, I don't know if it's possible, but I definitely know that there's only one person that I know that might have ever beaten surveillance. So that I just wanted to say that, and I wanted to caution everybody, if you're thinking about trying to do it yourself, be careful, right? But that being said, so where do you want to start, Magician Macedo? Where do you want to start? Do you want to, actually.
I would like to ask you guys that are watching right now, let's go through each of the procedures step by step. First, I showed the wash, right? Why do you guys think the wash is important during the shuffling procedure, and you know, what kind of cheating opportunities does it prevent? What do you guys think?
All right. Well, I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to sort of show my version of the wash that I do teach on Truepokerdealer. That is the casino procedure. Now, every procedure that you have, the goal of the wash. Let me get it so it's even more on the shot. The goal of the wash is to get every face of the card to touch the felt while you're mixing all the cards together. Now, I have zero training in any type of magic at all, so talking about the places where it might be able to cheat, I don't know, but the goal is this full wash is only supposed to be done when the deck is 100% suited, meaning all the cards are in order sequentially, all right? And so within this process, there's 2 things that are pretty important about why it's set up this way. Number 1, it's set up in order to mix the cards to be done this way. Number 2, you have in table games, you actually turn the cards toward the dealer, because you don't want a player to be able to follow a card. But in poker, you turn the cards away from the dealer when you square them up so that it's harder to be able to tell where the cards are. And those are the basic 2 steps. So let me put this back up. You're supposed to have every card touch the felt at least once, and then also you're supposed to have the cards facing away from the dealer. So Joey, are you willing to talk about it from your perspective? As someone who has both sides of it, are you willing to give us a little insight into what you think is possible?
Yeah. And it's so funny because my whole life I've studied how to basically cheat. And doing magic is a form of cheating. You know, you're cheating the sight, you're cheating the mind in a way. And I am definitely high integrity because of the 15-year career, there may have been a couple of occurrences where I have beaten the security. And
wait, okay, interesting. So just to jump it back. So Joey, you're saying, and we don't know exactly what you're talking about when you say this, and I certainly don't want you to say anything that incriminates yourself.
I'm not figuratively speaking.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you've actually done anything like that. I'm going to say it. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but so you're saying that.
Let's say the if I were to use my skills, I never used it with a partner.
Okay.
I never had anybody in particular who I was trying to give money to. I never was taking money away from the casino or other players. It was all funded by what we know as the jackpot. And that's funded by player-funded money. So when I maybe could have made multiple high hands show up, potentially, it was only giving away their money that they actually put in every hand. Because as we know, as in the business, we're putting jackpots, their own money from the pot into a jackpot fund. Now, as far as the wash is going to be the hardest thing to actually cheat. That's why.
Totally agreed. Yeah.
Now there is a way, and you'd have to be very entertaining as you're doing it, because as they're doing it, they're going like this, and I could be talking and telling people some things and not really. I'll demonstrate.
Well, hold on. I want to interrupt you for a second. I believe that you have a demo, but I want to go to Magician Macedo because I think that you have. Did you have something that you wanted to show us where maybe you can do something that even a casino professional might be sort of wowed by?
Actually, since the focus here is also to train professional dealers to be more knowledgeable about this stuff, I'd like to give a demonstration if the wash was not mandatory.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
So let's go down here. The idea is, let's just grab a few value cards over here and pretend that a hand has just ended. Put a bunch of cards over here, just like this. This would be the board, right? Flop, turn, and river. Let's say there are a few mucked cards over here. The burn cards are over here. And then some players with their cards still on their hands, like 3 players over here. Then there's the showdown. There's a pair of aces here, the 6 kicker. So this guy wins. The pair of aces. I killed this hand. I killed this hand over here. And let's say, for example, this is the situation. If the wash was not necessary, let's see what I could do here. I'm just going to scoop these cards real quickly like this. Reassemble the deck, right? And I would go straight into the shuffling procedure, right? Without the wash. So I just start the riffling here. I'm going to try to do the riffling in a kind of a crooked manner, right? So just so you guys can get a little idea of what's possible, I'm just going to put the cut card over here. And say, for example, there are like 3 players that are sat on the table over here. I just went through the entire procedure of riffle, riffle, strip, riffle, cut, right? Standard procedure. But look, at the top of the deck, I was able to place a couple of cards with high value, right? It's not exactly stacked for a single player. This is something that is a little bit more advanced. But if I was to deal these cards exactly the way they were at the top of the deck, take, for example, 3 players, they each one get 2 cards. This player would get a minor hand. Look at this. Ace King, suited hand. This guy, Ace Jack. I could actually create a very interesting battle between these 2 guys, right? Probably not this one because, you know, I would totally fold this hand if I was playing. But look at these 2 guys, right? I didn't wash the deck. So if we actually go through the correct procedure and understand why the washes are important. So again, let's just open up a very high value board over here. And the same scenario, a bunch of mugged cards, players with their cards in their hands, their cut card would be here, the burned cards, the deck would be spread like this, the cut card right here. The idea of the wash is that no cards can actually be stacked, because one of the most dangerous things that can happen in a table where a crooked dealer is at play is if he knows the position of value cards in the deck. Say, for example, there are aces on the top of the deck or aces are on the bottom of the deck. If he has that information and is able to use crooked shuffles, you know, false shuffles, false cutting techniques to control the deck, he can actually control the outcome of that hand. You can actually have these aces, for example, fall to player number 2 over here, to player number 3. So the wash does what? You get the cards, and you just, you know, make sure the cards that were played in this previous hand actually get lost, right? I'm not able to track them anymore. I don't know their position, their initial position before I start the shuffling, right? So it's a very effective way of preventing cheating right here at this moment, because I'm also instructed to square up the cards away from me, so I can't see there is an ace of spades here on the bottom, right? If I were actually to do this, I can see there is an ace of spades right here, and I can try to control that card to fall to somebody's hand, for example. Or even worse than that, in underground games where there are no official dealers, whoever gets the dealer button gets to handle the cards and deal the hand, right? That's where, you know, bad stuff can actually happen. Say, for example, I'm the dealer, I have the dealer button, and I can actually deal that ace directly to my hand like this. I'm going to talk about a little more the dealing part later on, but the wash does this. It prevents stacking, the initial stacking of the cards, which is very effective. That's why I totally agree with Joey saying that the wash is very difficult to fake, right? To actually hold out cards. You have to palm cards. You have to hide cards in your lap, maybe behind your knee over here, right? There are a bunch of stuff that can actually happen. And you would rely a lot on misdirection, where players are not paying attention to what's going on. And in an actual casino where there are, like, you know, a bunch of cameras watching you 24/7, there's no way a wash can actually be faked, right? You can try to fake other stuff, but the wash is very difficult, very difficult.
So, all right, a couple of responses to everything you just said. That was all fascinating. Now, I have had a separate conversation about the theory of this with Joey, and so I know that he has a lot of insight into this as well. For a couple of things that come to mind. Number one, we do use shuffle machines a lot of the time in casinos. So there's an actual machine that shuffles the deck, and the dealer's only responsibility is to cut. So the only opportunity that a dealer gets when using a shuffle machine is during the cut, if they're somehow able to see the card, which they're not supposed to allow anybody to see it, including themselves, maybe they could do something then. And then also, there are some random instances where a hand shuffle can be done, such as if the shuffle machine is not ready in time, or if it jams, which happens a lot, or if a dealer could probably choose to hand shuffle in a moment when they want, when the shuffle machine was available, and nobody would really pay attention to that in a lot of cases. But I did want to mention for everybody watching, like, you know, people might be afraid, oh, this means that dealers might be cheating a lot. I think part of what we're going to prove here is how hard that is. And it's also possible we're going to prove that it's possible. But yeah, the shuffle machines are a huge factor, right? Like you know, Magician Macedo, what do you say to the fact that you have to use a shuffle machine whenever possible?
Of course, for the game protection's sake, would be absolutely perfect, because the dealer would handle the cards much less. And in order to actually control the outcome of a hand, you need to do a bunch of steps, right? Know the position of a few cards, control the shuffle, control the cut, and of course control the dealing, right? So if you don't have control over like 3 of those phases, almost nothing can happen.
Could either of you actually demo for us an entire wash or any type of a wash all the way through a shuffle where you keep the cards in whatever order you want? Like, are you guys able to do that? I just feel curious.
That's a very nice
I have to add one thing too. The cut is supposed to be done with one hand, a two-handed cut. If anybody I've ever seen in the casino saw that, they would stop it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to try it out, Joey, first?
Yeah. So what I'm going to show you is,
You got to lower the camera for us. Yeah, excellent.
So these are regular bicycle cards, and the casino cards are going to be better for that. And when you do a proper wash, the way that you did it was so good, Mark, because we're cascading in a spread 3 times. And then when we eventually put our hands here, okay, we're going to maneuver them all in a way. And every card is supposed to be able to touch the same cards. Now, this may be a little difficult, and I may not get it right because I haven't been really practicing the cards. The key to being able to do this type of thing is like a boxer. You're not a boxer if you haven't boxed in 3 years. I'll do my best. So basically, when you do the shuffle and you bring it out and you shuffle it in here, they want you to keep these hands here. Now in Magic, they try to keep your hands here, but in the game, they want you to keep it here. They want you to put it back. They want you to do it again. And you got to be as clean as possible when you do that. Because if you're not clean, then there's a chance that you might be able to show a card here and there. Now, Magician Macedo, I saw, did a reverse. And in the casino, if a pit boss or the security saw the reverse, which means cards went up instead of cards going down, then they'd have to be wise of the cheater, because it has to be able to go down. And when it goes down, you could do it with either hand. And they usually say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the last one is the hard one. When you give the shuffle, now this is where I saw that you went, that wouldn't have been good, because you went here and you cut with 2 hands. The way that a casino would have to get tricked is with 1 hand. And how you would do that is it would have to be clean, and this is going to look terrible, but it has to be done like almost from the bottom there and I used to do it where you go like that. And over again, you'll be able to do it to the point where, but basically this finger right here is the blocking that they won't be able to see, because when you slide it out, I'm going to hold it like Magician Macedo did, because I'm not nearly as skilled as I used to be. That finger right there appears like it's on top. So when you do it and you slide it through, you put it there and you put it back, you really didn't cut anything. And if it went through, it should be, the same deck in the right order, and then you'd mix it back up. But that is the hardest to do. Now, what I'm
Okay,
gonna
well,
say,
hold on. I gotta interrupt for a second here. So this has gone from a hypothetical, can a magician beat casino surveillance, to a how-to actually go
I
through it
didn't
from
mean
somebody.
for that to happen. We're not talking about that. It's not a how-to. It's a how to not be fooled. How
Got it.
to catch the cheater. You know
I
what I
gotcha.
mean? The Shuffle Masters was probably the best thing that the casinos could have done. For 10 years, I didn't even fathom that my skills could work. And I will say that that takes more of a home game-esque where you do the shuffle, shuffle, box, shuffle. And I'm not going to say yes or no that I did or did not do that during a actual live dealing. But there was never any money that was at hand that it was not going to be taken from them.
Okay, so the two of you, first of all, the two of you are awesome. Let me see. Magician Macedo, what do you have to say about what you just saw Joey do, which was more in line with casino procedure? Although, first of all, I want to say what you did was incredibly in line with casino procedure, Magician Macedo. There were a couple of things that I saw too. I did actually see that. Well, I saw the two-handed cut. I did also see the box. It was done in a way where, as a manager, I would want to fix it, although I wouldn't know exactly why.
Right.
Yeah, and I would ask. And so what Joey did was he sort of explained the way that the cards are coming from the bottom to the top instead of the top to the bottom. Something about that looked wrong to me as a professional, and I might go in and say it. But I do want to also just say, honestly, a lot of managers let stuff like that go for what it's worth. So
it's true.
It's like,
and if they didn't, Mark, if they didn't, figuratively speaking, if managers didn't let things like that go, then figuratively, I couldn't have done what potentially might have happened.
I sort of get it. So, so the other thing that I saw that you did was, like you said, the riffle from the outside was, it stands out as sort of weird when there's a riffle from way outside, and Joey covered that. I was glad he mentioned that. That riffle right there.
Right there is where I would say, because I also was a manager, I would say, I'm going to need you to move your thumbs in to protect the integrity of the game. I would never say, I think you're cheating. I would say, I think you need to put your thumbs closer together to protect the integrity of the game. Seats 1 and 10 or 1 and 9 could see those cards potentially.
Can I, Magician Macedo, can I put you on the spot? Can you do a shuffle where you keep all the cards in order?
Sure, right now. There's this deck over here. You guys can see that it's in perfect order. Not exactly new deck order, but ace through king from all the suits in alternating color. In order to do a full deck retention, as it is called in the magic industry, you do have to act a little crooked, right? Something that I wanted to talk about is that no matter how good you are with a given technique, there's always a little giveaway, right? Just as you guys were discussing, the ways I cut the cards with both hands, the riffling from the back of the deck instead of, closer to the corners like this. There's always a very minute giveaway that if people have the knowledge, they can actually bust you. So this deck is in perfect deck order. I'm going to try to do the entire shuffle procedure without the wash, because if I did the wash of this deck is ruined, right? So we'll go something like this. To choose shuffles. I'm going to try to do that correct boxing action, and like this. You have to cut the cards with both hands, or else this won't work. So I'm just remove the cut card. You can actually see.
Very nice.
No cards change position.
So I feel like I could have gone my whole life never meeting anybody who can do this. This is amazing. So how long does it take to be able to do that?
Quite a few months. People usually say years. If you actually practice for years and years and years, you can get one of the best false shufflers in the world, really. But to get the fundamentals and actually be able to do it convincingly, couple of months, training every day, like every day, you can actually get it down.
When he says training every day, us magicians, we think 8 hours of training is nothing. You know, we like to train for that. So like the normal person doesn't want to train. Like we put the cards in our hands and we're like, yeah, 8 hours and it's gone. And like other people are like, oh, I can't waste that much time on that. But like, you know, that's what we decide to do.
So what? So like, how do you guys eat?
I'm gonna go and say this right now. If I spoke with Magician Macedo for 25 minutes, I can get him to break surveillance.
Really?
I could get him to break surveillance. And
so
just from watching his moves, because all he would need to do is move a couple of things this way, a couple of things that way, and then the most of the talk would be on how to perform it without, you know, because there's certain things. I saw Magician Macedo 100% correct, but this was the hardest thing when I was learning stuff, that I wanted to be able to do something like on the table and be like the magician guy and then say, okay, it was a magic act. Everybody gets their money back. So obviously they didn't want that to be done. But when
you're saying you were told no, correct?
Yeah, there was no. But Magician Macedo, when I saw you do this thing, they're going to do that. But in reality, it goes like literally this fast. It's like boom, 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 boom. And then now we're going right back into the thing. So there really isn't any time to grab multiple cards, maybe two. So what a potential cheater could do in this situation, like you were describing, they would look for two cards, because two cards is a lot easier to swipe in the action of, Marc, what do they call that? The end procedures, the cleanup procedure?
Yeah, I mean, it's just getting it to the next hand.
Right. So let's say we have it like this, and now, you know, what I used to do is show the winner. So when you show the winner, it's been a little bit for me, they tend to push the cards that are their cards and then the winner cards. That way the camera comes down and sees it. A dealer could easily go like this, flip everything over. Now, note, I still have those queens. I still have them. See, they're in my hand. So when I go like this and I grab them all up to square up, I still have the queens. Now, the queens, from this point of view, means nothing because it's going into a shuffle master, right? Of course.
Right.
So what happens when the shuffle master, the hand went too quick? Or what happens when the shuffle master, the dealer by accidentally presses it and reloads the deck and then has to hand shuffle?
So this is something that if you've never been a dealer using a shuffle machine, you might not know exactly when it is. But just to reiterate it, the expectation that I have, I'm going to show my screen for a second. The expectation that I have for anybody that's dealing in my room is basically from this point here, you're going like that, and you're going right into it, and then you go. And I mean, look, I feel like an idiot with cards compared to you guys, but nonetheless. Like, what's that?
Did you guys see how quickly he just scooped all those cards up? Like 1 second. Come on.
Yeah.
That's well, right. So that's how it's supposed to look for a dealer.
Right.
So, you know, if you're going as slow as you guys went, which is super fast to someone that doesn't deal regularly, if you're going at the speed you guys went.
If you're going up like this is like the slowest you should, ever go. It's easy because it's 1, 2, 3, but that's what the only two cards that you would grab is the two cards you were looking for, because you would grab them and use them as a scoop, and then you get them to the bottom.
Oh, so you'd be holding on to them. Jeez.
Yeah.
So this is surveillance needs to watch this video first of all.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to go into it, but poker's monotonous. Deal, flop, next hand, deal, flop, next hand. When you're a creative person, I was dealing on autopilot. There were sometimes I was thinking to myself, what if I lost a hand? Could I deal with one hand? And I practiced dealing with one hand because I wanted to make sure that I could deal,
That sounds like
Can you do a one-hand shuffle?
I tried to do the in the hand shuffle for the people, but then the pit bosses were like, "Oh no, you can't do that because you can control it." And I'm like, "You're more worried about me controlling it with one hand than me with two? Okay, I get it. No problem."
It sounds like some of the managers that I've met
Right?
before.
Seriously.
I mean,
but
for what it's worth.
when the Shuffle Masters came into play, it became a mute issue. There was a legend of an old man named Mr. K or something like that, and he was an Asian man. And whenever the royal flush, when I was working, would get high, he'd go, "Oh, who want the royal flush today?" And it comes, And when I heard that, I said, "You mean to tell me that guy beat surveillance?"
Interesting.
And then he beat it on a daily basis. So I said to myself that it can be done. And
so you sort of so all right, let me just recap this for a second. What you're saying is in your 15 years there, you got bored a lot during day shift probably.
Oh yeah.
Right? There's a lot of downtime. You're used to handling cards all the time, and you're saying that not saying that you did anything that wasn't within integrity, but you did sort of entertain yourself by messing around a little bit.
That was probably the best thing that you could say, because I didn't make money doing it. I wasn't doing it with a partner, so I guess I was entertaining myself.
Got it. That's interesting, and I sort of want to leave it at that, honestly. So the other thing that you said, Joey, that Magician Macedo, I don't want you to think this is a good idea, but Joey, you did tell a story about your audition. Do you mind sharing that real quick?
Yes. So when I first got the guts and learned how to deal poker, I heard horror stories of these type of auditions. And what they were the pit bosses would either put you on a live table and just throw you in, which is actually the best way, in my opinion, or they would try to mess with you, like 6 or 7 dealers, 2 shift managers, and then like the poker room manager or director.
I'm gonna interrupt you for a second. There are a lot of auditions where the supervising staff will really mess with the person in the audition.
It's not
trying to get them to mess up over and over and over again, partly to protect their own self and partly because people with suits have egos. It's just a fact.
Yep, 100%.
And I don't know what it's like in Brazil, but in the U.S., you get that occasionally, is the way I would say it. So,
I think here it doesn't really compare. It's really plain and simple, right? At the place where I attended the course, Dealer Pro, as it is known here in Brazil, you get a personal evaluation. I think you actually play a live hand, a live table, and if you do well, they can recommend you to work at various different poker places, right? Of course, as Joey mentioned, I could never say that I'm a magician as well, because that would totally screw me up. But if you do well, if you perform well, if you hand the cards very well, the chips, and you're good with math, of course, and then you just get, recommended. Pretty easy.
So that's really interesting, because I didn't know that it was through recommendation as much over there. So Joey, what happened in your audition?
So there was 100 people going for 10 extra board positions, and an extra board is like on call. And I sat down and I'm saying to myself, don't show magic, don't say I'm a magician, and these guys are going to totally mess with me. And from the first thing, I spread the cards out, and the ace of spades and the ace of hearts is missing. So I'm like, the 2 cards, the aces are missing. I put them in there, and I do what I just did before. I shuffle, box, shuffle, and box, and I said to everybody, what did I just do? And they're like, the dealing procedure, let's go. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I fanned the cards out, and it was ace through king, ace through king, ace through king, ace through king. And they were shocked. They were.
So you did that in your audition, is what you're saying?
In the audition. And it was I figured why not do it then? Because everyone's saying don't say you're a magician. So I'm like, maybe if I just tell the truth and just do it. And they were like, you're amazing, you're great, and just don't tell anybody you're a magician. And I'm like, this is the company hiring me. Just don't tell anybody you're a magician. And I proceeded to do a couple of different demonstrations with second and bottom deals for them. And I even asked if I could instruct a course on how to protect the casino. And they said that we don't really need that. But that's my story.
So I didn't realize we were going to get quite so many answers here, but apparently Joey's saying that he was able to fool a bunch of people that actually do the hiring in front of them in an audition.
In their face.
And I mean,
that people that have been in the business at that time, 10, 20 years, and they're even calling people. They're like, "Hey, Gus, come here. Come look at this kid." It's like, I'm 18 years old, and he's like, "Oh, come check this out." And then it turned into like I'm showing a couple magic tricks, and then like I was Mr. Popular, And then,
so I'm going to say, if you're a hiring manager and somebody does that for you, do not hire them. It's just that simple, right? You're putting yourself at risk.
Honestly, you're putting yourself at risk.
Exactly.
I'm out of the business. I did it for 15 years, and I loved it when I was there. I went from brush to shift manager and everything in between. And I definitely recommend doing it, just not being a magician and doing it, because you get bored, and.
So that's interesting. Magician Macedo, I want to throw it back to you. So we've talked about a lot of stuff. I want you to be satisfied in this conversation all the way through. So where do you want to take us right now?
So let's go back to the steps between that are actually performed in the shuffling procedure. So we covered the wash. Let me just put my MacBook to charge over here. So we covered the wash. After the wash, there's a squaring up action, right? Which Marc yourself has already talked about this in previous videos, in previous live streams, right? After you wash the deck, I'm trying to do just like you did. Every card has to touch the fat at least once. And then there are two instances right here. You can actually scoop the cards and square them up facing away from you, which is the correct procedure. And you can scoop the cards and square them up like this. I wanted to see what everybody that's watching, why this is suspicious. What could this cause here if I'm actually a crooked dealer? Pick up cards like this. What could this cause?
I think that the first part of the answer to this is table games does it that way. And the theory is that a player at the table who would be cheating or experienced at following a card would be able to do it without the help of the dealer, right? So they're trying to prevent a player on their own. And that's why, like a player on their own in a table game, where keep in mind in table games like blackjack or something, it's the player versus the house. So the house has a lot of money to lose. The dealer's not going to lose anything. So you get dealers that are sort of lazy sometimes, forget about the unbelievable skills that both of you guys have. But so that's why it's done like that in table games, to keep it out of the sight of the dealer. And I guess unintentionally, it does create the ability for a dealer to see the cards. But I would ask you the question, if you turn the cards toward yourself when you're squaring it up, is there anything, Magician Macedo, is there anything that you could do using that information? Like, why don't you tell us what's possible as a table games dealer? Sure.
Let's try to do a little demonstration here. So say, for example, I'm going to use queens just like Joey did. I'm going to grab a couple of queens here. Say, for example, I just washed the deck, blah, 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 and I scoop it up. I see two queens at the bottom of the deck, just like that, right? Okay. Just like I mentioned before, if a crooked dealer knows the position of interesting cards and he can actually use sleight of hand to, manipulate the outcome of a game, he'll do so. So I'll try to go over the rest of the procedure here. This time I'll try to be as fair as possible. Right? Just like that.
You can see he's adjusting and making it look more like the casino procedure.
Yes, and that's why I knew that he would be able to do it in 100%. 25 minutes
Right.
with me, and then he'll do it.
So now I've just gone through the entire procedure. Let's say this is an underground game where I'm not an official dealer, right? I'm just playing against a bunch of other guys. Say, for example, there are 4 guys, so 3 and plus myself. Each one gets 2 cards. This is like a demonstration of Texas Hold'em. Just oh shit! Actually messed up. Let's begin it again. The idea is
we're live, so we're totally patient.
yeah. Totally
Did you say we're live?
Doesn't matter. My hand's a little bit sweaty. So, as you can see, I just gave you guys a spoiler. The queens are actually at the bottom. But what can the dealer do if the queens are at the bottom? Like that. Anyways, just a very sloppy demonstration. I could deal the queens to myself, just like this, even though there's a cut card at play right there, right? So if I get a peek at a couple of cards while squaring up the deck, I could try to control their position or actually maintain their position over there at the bottom. It would be easier to control the cards to fall at a given hand if they are at the bottom, right? There are a couple of ways of false dealing, which would be the bottom deal, the second deal. I also want to try to demonstrate the Greek deal as I'm trying to do here, and the center deal, which is also another type of crooked dealing. But it would go something like that. Just 2 cards to each player, and I would get the 2 queens.
So first of all, I feel like I'm going to start getting phone calls from casinos that want you to deal table games and have the house always win. So the house just racks in crazy amounts of money. That's interesting in itself.
Demonstration, by the way.
What's that?
Sorry about this sloppy demonstration, by the way.
Oh no, it's. I mean, first of all, we all get the point, and we also saw your demo stuff earlier, which was super clean. So as somebody in the industry, I was able to see you because I was looking for it. I was able to see you pull the card off the bottom of the deck after you brought attention to it, the fact that it was there. And I imagine though that if you worked on that a lot, it would be super clean so that nobody could see it, or maybe you would use distraction techniques or something, right?
It depends on the angle, right? This would be my worst angle because you guys can see like inside the side of the deck over here, right? If I actually turn this way, it would be a little more difficult, right? So there's the 3 of spades right there at the bottom. If I was dealing a few cards like this, if I do that, it's a little more clean. You see? So
it also seems like it might be a little. Seems like it might be a little easier to get that 3 of spades on the board too, because the motion of bringing it out seems a little bit more natural. But this is me with my incredibly unprofessional Magic experience. I have no idea about anything related to Magic. But
it doesn't matter the moment, right? The idea is to perform this as a false deal, right? You can actually deal cards when you're dealing cards to players, you're pitching, or when you're dealing cards to the table, like when I flip a flop or something like that, right?
Yeah, and I do want to say it is pretty uncommon. Let me put it this way: it's pretty uncommon for a table games dealer to not be using a shuffle machine as well. But that does demonstrate. So it sounds like what you're saying is circumstantially, if you were squaring the deck up facing you, circumstantially, you might be able to create something that would be beneficial in some way that you were to choose. But it would also require using some of those techniques that now we're going to talk about surveillance for a second. Okay, so when it comes to surveillance, these cameras that they have can go in incredibly slow motion and they can zoom in a lot. So the question is, how do you get to the point when you work in casinos where you're actually going to look at footage, right? What is going to get you to the point where you decide, hey, I need to check this out? Now, Joey, you told a story about something that they asked you to stop. I want to hear about that in a second. Something related to the tips or the chips that you were having fun with. Yeah, but basically in my experience, so I've actually been a floor in table games and in poker and a shift manager in poker. I spent much longer in poker, but I've done table games too. I had to pay attention to the count for blackjack, for example, and some of that type of stuff. as a poker supervisor, shift manager, we are aware of how much every single dealer tips out. So the person running the room can see how much money a dealer makes. And when a dealer is outside of the statistical norm, they get investigated, in my experience. And what the investigation turns into is, first you sort of loosely pay attention to see if you can explain it and it makes sense. But then you actually go to the footage, and from the point where you start paying attention, you actually ask surveillance to zoom in and focus on somebody dealing for the day. And so the recordings that they have of you are normally pretty good. But man, if you get yourself in a situation where you're actually being watched, not because of anything that somebody saw, right? You could be a perfect magician. If you get watched because of the result of your tips or something like that, or I mean, it could be a complaint too, but it's going to be really, really hard because they're going to be able to slow it down to such an incredibly slow speed. And one thing that I've seen, Joey, you used to have, so you have a channel on YouTube that you sort of messed around with. It has like a tiny bit of traffic, right?
Like, when YouTube was like beginning.
Right. So you put a video out where you were second dealing, taking the second card off the top on the pitch and pitching it out. And I actually did a live stream at one point. I don't know if I told you this. About a year ago, I did a live stream and I slowed it down for everybody and showed that you could see the card coming at 25% speed. But real time, you couldn't tell at all. So my point with that is, if you ever get caught, I love seeing this.
I love it.
It's like impossible to know that you're doing it, but we can see you doing it right in front of us. It's insane.
I told you 25 minutes and he just needs to know what.
Can you do it while pitching?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, can you pitch the second? Oh man, you're doing the thing. It's like sick. Joey, I know that you can do that as well. I've seen your video where you do it basically. So, it's, thank goodness for shuffle machines. I think shuffle machines were originally created because shuffling takes time and more hands equals more money for the casino. But there's if you are running a poker room and you have anyone in there that might be a magician, please get shuffle machines on as many tables as you can.
Or make them a floor. Make them a floor and give them a raise. That way, I could have helped out.
Well, now you're just being smart. That always doesn't happen in poker rooms, unfortunately. But
you gotta vote for magic shows at poker places. That's
really interesting.
I wanted to say that, Marc, you were 1,000% right. Where tipping out with other dealers, they're gonna know. So when my tips are $50 less than theirs, there's no people's questioning if I'm doing any type of magic. You know what I mean? Like I said, if I was doing it on the table, it was only for my particular, I guess, ego, maybe just to see if I could do it. And there's a problem with that because once you dabble and your ego gets pushed, oh man, I might have got away with something, or then you have to be smart. And I ended up learning different ways that, like, Magician Macedo has the whole shuffle, box, shuffle, but more often than not, that's going to be null and void now because of the shuffle masters. So the wash, null and void, a lot of things. What I did pick up on was a way that you can look at the cards. And Magician Macedo probably knows about different versions of peaks. So you would peek the top card, or the top 3 cards, or the top 5 cards.
So hold on. What are you talking about? I don't speak this language.
Marc's already lost.
Yeah, I'm going to show it just from this angle. But
all right.
Now, you like I said, you got to be doing it in a fashion where there's like when I was dealing, I'm like kind of like this. Hey, 2 to call, raise to 15. Here we go, 15.
Yeah, Joe, you were one of the most friendly and chatty dealers I've ever seen.
You know, and it's like, oh,
absolutely.
No, $10 fold, you know? So now you're going over here, right? There's a lot of motion here. Why would somebody follow me? A, they don't think that I'm trying to do anything. They have no reason to believe it. I've been dealing forever. You know what I mean? So all this motions is good. Now, what I used to try to do is you could peek. Now, this looks exaggerated, of course. This looks terrible. But from my angle, I could see deuce of clubs, queen of hearts, king of spades, queen of clubs, three of diamonds. Now, that's exaggerated. When I'm doing it, it's like this. Two to call. So now I know queen of clubs is on top.
Wow. So you just looked at it there. So is this, can Magician Macedo, this is.
It's like here we're going like this. And I looked at it.
That's called the bubble peak, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's called. And it happens so fast that, look, pretend this is a chip right here. Wait, where is it? As I'm moving the chip, I look down. It's it. Boom. That's it.
So you create the time for it.
I'm not rolling the deck. I'm just moving my deck up. So boop. And I
hate that technique because it only works with people that are right-handed, that actually hold the deck with the left hand. I actually hold the deck with my right hand. I can't do that. If I I actually look at this corner.
Oh wow!
Nothing. When he peaks, he's peaking at nothing. So he would. Yeah. That's very tough. But knowing what the top card is, knowing what the top 2 cards, 3 cards is, then you could do. Let's say I want something to come out with the queen of clubs. Then it's easy. I'm going to second deal and make sure that it comes on top. Okay. Now, if I don't want this anymore, okay, so the queen of clubs is there. So now we're doing the things, 2 to call. I make my peak. I know it's the queen of clubs. If I don't want it to come, now I just burn it. It's gone. And now people that are playing have a different chance to get it. Now, I know what you're asking. Why would that be a big deal? Especially if you don't have a partner. Because certain places give off jackpots. So I knew that if I could potentially put out more aces, I have a chance to get more of a jackpot for the player. You understand?
Or you just try to mess with the players, right? I just want to see them get crazy. I'm gonna throw all aces in the first flop.
No, not like that. Not like that, because then that would be like, oh man, that's crazy. It would be whenever there was a natural ace on the flop, I would potentially casually look to see if the next turn or river was an ace, and if it was, it would come. If it wasn't,
I'm gonna stop you right there. No, you didn't do that. So. I understand what you're saying though. The idea is can you beat surveillance? And so I think that anytime Joey's ever a dealer in a casino again, we have to give him decks where the cards are on the opposite sides because he's a righty, and now take away the ability to pick.
The decks that the casinos use are usually B decks, and that in itself.
What is a B deck? You said B deck?
Look at Magician Macedo's card versus my card, right? Okay.
Okay.
What do you notice about my card and his card?
Yours has an edge around the outside. Yeah. Is that what you're talking about?
Yep. So let's just say that a magician or a con man or a cheat hasn't been doing it as long as myself or Magician Macedo. That one card is going to make his second deals, his bottom deals, his center deal, anything. It's going to make it look like he's a professional. So that's why casinos shouldn't have those type of cards. They should have a border, because the border.
Hold on. So you're saying that the eye will be more easily able to pick up the border coming from the wrong place?
A break. It's a half a second, like millisecond break. In the eye. Because when Magician Macedo does it, look at this. Watch. It's a mirage. It's a mirage. You know, it's like
I see.
You know, and then when he does it there, you'll never see that. Look at that.
Wait, can you switch?
He would never go that slow, and he's going that slow, and we still can't see him.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you switch to the other one. Oh, I see.
It's a half a millisecond. But
right here.
yep, look.
Yeah.
You see what I'm talking about?
All right. So there's 2 lessons here for casinos. Number 1, if you have somebody that's good with sleight of hand, potentially make sure that you get a deck with borders on the back. And the other lesson would be, so the border along the outside on the back. And the other lesson would be, if there's a way to get cards, if they're a right-handed dealer, we got to put the jack and reverse it here, basically.
That last part really doesn't count, Mark, because there are a bunch of ways you can actually peek at cards. There's a peek I do, which is magic purpose only, which is like this. Just like that.
You
Oh,
could
You actually lift the top card just a little bit, and I could see, right? You guys could see maybe that, you know?
Right.
If the people was not here, it would be at the bottom. I could actually see it no matter what.
And with a little misdirection of talking, they won't even see it because, you know, it's hidden.
Yeah. I see that's the six of clubs.
Nice.
Yeah. Just do that. 8 of hearts.
See, and the way that you did it, it looks very natural. So that's amazing.
Wow. So, all right. There's a lot going on for me here now. So I've spent my entire casino career, right, since 2007, and I played poker even before that. And I've spent all of that time thinking to myself, it's a lot harder than you guys are making it to actually fool people in general. Now I'm starting to second guess it a bit. And like we said, it's a good thing that shuffle machines came out. But at the same time, you're also saying that theoretically, if you've got a deck in your hand that's already been shuffled, you have a way to, not necessarily for the initial deal, but you do have a way to control maybe the flop, turn, or river a little bit.
And you remember when Magician Macedo was grabbing 2 cards and he scooped them up, and then you did the same thing with the wash?
Yeah.
The only other thing that you can do, I mean, not the only other thing, but one of the things that you can do is when they have those, just the 2 cards, right? And it's on the bottom. If the dealer was working with somebody and he went like this, magicians can cut the cards. If there's 9 players, how many cards are being dealt out? 18, right?
18.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you have what? You got a burn card. So that's 19 cards. And then you have the flop coming out. So all I got to make sure, if I want this 1 10 or this second 10 to show up, and let's just say the person on the other side is a partner, all I have to do is I could naturally shuffle the cards and keep them on the bottom. I'm not even doing anything fake. You know what I mean? I could naturally keep them on the bottom, and then the cut, I just got to cut 20 cards. That's after maybe 8 hours of trying to dead cut 20 cards, you'll be able to cut 20 cards.
Wait, you're saying that you can cut exactly 20 cards if you want?
Well, magicians, that's what we practice. I mean, you know, we got
That's 8 hours, yeah.
It's very difficult but possible.
Okay, I'm going to change the conversation for a second here. If you're watching this right now and you work in a casino and you're afraid that somebody might be able to do this in your casino, Magician Macedo charges $150 an hour for consulting. So you can reach out to him. Joey charges the same as well. These guys will help you catch anybody that you need if you show them surveillance footage, guaranteed. I'm sort of making this up, but I have full confidence that they could identify anybody in HD, right?
Oh my God. With their cameras now, they just, I mean, right now, they just need to hire people and instruct them with, I think maybe their procedures might need to be updated a little bit.
That's interesting. So, where do we go from here?
Let's go back to the circle procedure.
Let's do it.
Marketing opportunities. So we started the riffle shuffle now, right? This is my second favorite part. My favorite is the dealing, but here the riffle shuffle, I gave you guys some demonstrations of full deck control and stuff. Joey just demonstrated that very easily can control a card on the bottom, on the top. It's very easy. I'm gonna try to give you guys some terminology on that as well. The idea of holding, of actually protecting the position of cards is actually called a retention shuffle, or sometimes it's called a blind shuffle. So 2 queens on the bottom here, you can shuffle as a normal dealer would do, which would be something like this. And you can keep those cards on the bottom. Same thing on the top here. This is so natural to occur that most people don't even notice. So I just keep these queens on top of the deck. I just keep them face up so you guys can follow. I can shuffle, and they never go anywhere. I can cut the top card, the top packet of the deck to the left or to the right, which really doesn't matter. I can keep those cards over there, right? It's a little bit more difficult to retain their position during the cutting, right? I saw Joey doing this, right, where the cards are at the bottom. You can do that, right? Just a little fake boxing cut, right? Just leave the bottom packet on the deck, on the table. I mean, you just strip from the bottom like this. This does nothing to the cards. No cards are actually changing position, right? So you can actually retain the entire deck. There are a bunch of false cuts as well. This one, which is followed by this. There's this one which the cards go from top to from the bottom to the top, right? Which is actually kind of weird. There's also the up the ladder sequence, which is like this. This does nothing to the cards as well. There's another way of
wait. I gotta have you hold on for a second. So you said
yeah.
You said it does nothing to the cards, but I'm watching the cards go through this thing. How is it that it's doing nothing? Are they actually moving through here, and then you know how to get them back to their original position, or are you keeping them the same the whole time?
Demonstration here, because I messed up the order of these cards. Let's see here, just so I can get the deck back into order. That cut I just demonstrated, which is something like that. I think it's like this, right? I just lost a card. But you see that the bottom, nothing changes. See?
It's pretty
I just messed up
remarkable.
the top stack, I think. So let me just remove them. It would be something like that. It does nothing to the cards. It's called an up the ladder sequence.
So what? I want my brain to understand this, I guess. So what's actually happening? Are you putting them out of order at all and then putting them back in order, or are they always staying where they were?
Yeah, they kind of move around in blocks, right? You place up. I'm going to try to teach this technique if I can.
Well, maybe. So do you have a video on your channel that does this? Because if not, just you can make it, right?
Specifically for the up the ladder sequence, no. It's in my opinion, it's a very specific gambling technique which I love, and I try to keep only on my paid courses.
Okay. Oh, you have paid courses. Well, that's good. How does somebody find?
Right
how does somebody find your paid course?
In my channel, in the description of all the videos, there are links which lead to my site where they can get to know the content of each course, and there's the checkout link up there as well in the description of all the videos. But I'm working on an English version for all of those courses as well. It will be up in the next few months or so.
Well, that's okay. Just
you
for me,
guys want to learn the up the ladder sequence right now?
Say that again.
You guys want to want to learn the up the ladder sequence?
I think that since you have this in your paid course, or this is the type of thing that goes in your paid course, I think it's probably better to leave it there. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to try to find it. So I'm going to share that on the screen, and I'm going to ask you to help me find where it is so that people can get to it if they want. Let me see how to do this. So I'm going to go like this.
Yeah, I think most of the people that are watching me from my channel over at the comments now, I kind of see a bunch of Brazilian names popping up in the comments here. Most of them may be my students, so this wouldn't be a spoiler of my paid courses. I can totally teach this to you guys if you want to.
So this is your channel. So how do I find the paid course? So where do we go?
Just open any video.
All right. We'll jump to this one from 6 days ago.
Sure.
And you're saying that
over there,
right over here is where you get it.
Yeah, you see that Curso de Mágica 200 plus. That's the first link over there, right there. That link over there, bit.ly/40 Mágica is my paid course right there.
All right. And so that's really cool. Do you have any plan to create one of those in English at any point?
Absolutely. I'm working on that right now. You'll be up in a few months because that course over there has over 200 videos. Over
That's
200.
fantastic.
Yeah, that's
How
awesome.
much is
Well,
that course?
Converted to dollars is $19. Over here in Brazil, it's $97.
That's
The
awesome.
currency here is called real, so it's 97 reais.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you teach just like card stuff or all types of magic?
Only card stuff. So there are 3 courses. The close-up magic stuff, which you can do while standing, like in street magic format. There's also a gambling course with performances only at the card table. Everything is done over the close-up pad. And there's also a course for cardistry. Cardistry is something I was doing during the presentation, which is something like this, you know, just jiggle the cards. I have a course in that as well.
That's awesome.
So, wow. Well, thank you for sharing all that. I had never actually seen that you had those courses. So I had interrupted you though. There were more versions of this that you were showing. If you remember where you were at, if you don't mind getting back to it.
Sure. I was talking about the riffle shuffle first, right? There are a bunch of stuff you can do with this shuffle over here when it comes to controlling cards, right? I basically try to teach people about 4 variations of this stuff, right? The first 2 are the blind shuffles that I mentioned earlier, that are just ways of retaining the position of a group of cards on the top or at the bottom of the deck, right? So if I just turn a few cards over like this, a bunch of cards are face up on top of the deck. I can shuffle the cards like this and actually keep them on the top, so I can, you know, try to control these for an outcome of a game, for example. Same thing on the bottom. I can keep these cards inverted here on the bottom. Do this. It's very easy to do. You can actually protect those cards at the bottom just like this, right? This is an easy version. Now, for the most complicated stuff, there are like 2 false shuffle variations that are my favorite. First of them is the push-through shuffle. This might be very new territory for you right now, Marc, which goes something like this. Let me see here. I use this deck. If I take half the deck and I actually flip it over, you can see that a half is flipped over, face up, the rest is face down. If I was to perform a standard riffle shuffle with this, just like that, you can see that the cards are actually being, you know, interlaced over here. If I was to actually square this shuffle up, it would be a mess, right? Face up into face down cards and stuff. But there's a way, which is called the push-through shuffle, to fake a shuffle followed by a cut. Looks like I actually square the cards, but if I do a cut like that, I would, you know, just slap this on top to complete the shuffle. You see?
So, all right, I did notice. I noticed when you did your demonstration where you kept everything in order that your last riffle, and I forget which one of you said it was, the last riffle is the toughest one, but the last riffle, when you push the cards together, I thought to myself, well, they didn't go in as far as I had anticipated they were going to go in. And I think I understand at least a little bit of why now. And it's because you keep them sort of separated so that you can cut through the entire deck, right?
Yeah, the idea is because that last part, just like Joey mentioned, this last cut over here is very difficult to fake, right? So the push-through shuffle is an idea where you fake a shuffle, and
like
it is naturally followed by a cut.
Yes.
Right? So I can try and use that structure to fake the last straight cut in the shuffling procedure, right? So if I have a deck that is organized like this, so you guys can see, I put it back in order over here, and I do that push-through shuffle, and followed by a cut as the procedure requires. I can do that, followed by a cut. I actually cut the deck at the wrong part, but again, you can see that
right.
The only thing that happened is that a few cards just change position. But if I actually cut right at the king of diamonds, like this, nothing changes. You see? That's the push-through shuffle. That's one of the variations of a false riffle shuffle. There are a few others. My favorite of all, Joey must know this, is the famous zero shuffle. And zero is named after the creator of the move, Herb Zero. an incredible magician. This is a little bit more deceptive because it doesn't involve a cut. It's a simple shuffle. I can do like this, and it's done.
That looks great.
And it actually mimics this same idea of a legit shuffle, and you can see nothing changes, right? It's just a split of the deck, you riffle, you square, and you're done, right? And there are a million variations of this. I can try to do with 3 shuffles, 2 shuffles, controlling cards in between. This controls the entire deck. It can actually be used to stack the deck, stack a few cards, control stacks on the top, on the bottom, everywhere. But basically, you use it to control the entire deck. It goes like this. It doesn't change anything.
This is all pretty remarkable. And if you work in casinos again, which is, I'm trying to represent the people out there that work in casinos that might start to get scared. You know, part of our intent here is to help people identify anything like this that might be happening and use surveillance and all that stuff too. So we're certainly not coming at this from the angle of can we cheat the casino. We're coming at this from the angle of what can be done, how can we prevent it, and you know, how awesome are we on a scale of 1 to 10, which you guys are up by the 10, and I'm I like to think of myself as awesome for different ways, but boy, so I feel like I've learned a lot, and I feel like there's a conversation here that I think we sort of want to have about, you know, how much money could this move and all that type of stuff, and why is there surveillance in the first place, right? So first of all, Magician Macedo, how long do you think it would take you? Let's say you even had help from Joey, whether or not you need it, right? How long do you think it would take you to be able to never be caught by surveillance, if it's even possible for you?
I think it depends on the quality of the surveillance.
Let's say that they're reasonably good.
Yeah, I don't really think I would be able to do it, to be quite honest. Right? It would actually take weeks and weeks of training, because it doesn't come down only to handling the cards.
The nerves.
There are a bunch of people watching you from every direction, right? You get like the nervousness of a beginner magician. You know, I'm gonna shake. I'm gonna be able to do anything that I trained for weeks and weeks, right? And if you get caught,
you're done. Like every time that potentially something might
I wouldn't be able to do it. Really,
it would have been. It would let me, because I have to pick the words.
Joey, what did they say to you with the tips that you were messing around with? Just as an example story of how surveillance or managers can get on you, because this is something that you were doing to entertain people, you would say,
yes.
Right?
So every time I received a tip, I would do the muscle pass. Magician Macedo, you know, when you do the chip and it goes up. So
does anybody have a chip that they could show us what you're talking about? What's a muscle pass? It's like I hear chips ruffling around somewhere.
I don't have any chips.
No chips. Joey, do you have any?
I think I might have the chip.
There are a bunch of things you can do with chips. You can make them vanish. You can make them transpose from one hand to the other. It's very cool. It's like coin magic. Basically the same thing as coin magic.
Oh, that makes sense. But they are significantly larger. What about a chip might make it harder for you to do that stuff that a casino could do with their chips in order to make it harder to manipulate?
If they actually make it this big, so you can actually you can palm it, you can hold it out, you can make it vanish, but that would be absolutely impractical, right? To have chips like this size. No.
Probably impractical. I mean, casinos in Europe do have the plaques that they use for the larger denominations, because how many of them are you really going to bet at once, right? And it's also nice to have a differentiator in size. Joey, were you able to find any chips?
Yeah, I actually found one chip.
That's pretty funny.
So, basically, when I would get the tip, I would in front, like you're supposed to do. Surveillance sees it, and I would always go, "Thank you so much, I appreciate this." And they're like, "What?" And then like I'd make it appear in the other hand. Then I'm like, okay, that's great. That got, then some people would throw me an extra $1 or $2, here, do it with, do it with mine. And I would do like smaller things. I'd say, here, we'll put it here and then throw it up and then it's back in the hand. And then I'd always tap it and put it in. And then I decided one day to do like the muscle pass with it. So it looked like it fell up, and every time I did that, they were like, do it again. And, they would think that I'm trying to like flick it up and whatever. So then one day surveillance hits me with 40 write-ups. It's a packet, 40. From week start to week end, 40 different times Mr. DiPietro was found taking a tip and we don't know where it went. So from my perspective, having worked in casinos, and I know you were a shift manager too, you said, it sounds like they started watching you and they continued watching you for an extended period of time in order to build a book on you. Yep.
And so what happened in that conversation when they decided to do that?
So they brought me in the office and, I had no write-ups or no nothing. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, we don't like what you're doing with the tips. And I'm like, what, the magic? And I'm like, I thought that was great. Everyone's loving it. And like at our casino, there was a whole type of thing on how you got to try to be like more personable and more fun. So, I thought that was great. And they're like, yeah, it's just, we don't know where it's going and we can't follow it. So, sometimes you're putting it in your hand and it's still in that hand. Sometimes you're putting it in the hand and it's not in that hand. And then we can't see when you're tapping the table to go into your tip box. So I was really afraid. I thought that was the end of my career. I thought I was done.
I'm gonna say in most casinos it probably would be.
Yeah, I mean, I like and I'm not gonna toot my own horn, but I was a very, very hard worker. So I said I would never do it again, and I didn't for a very long time.
So just something to say from casino procedure: a chip in your hand like this as a dealer, you're never supposed to do. Even though my hand is open, you're never supposed to have it towards your palm. Everything is supposed to stay in your fingertips. I can't do any tricks. Although people that watch my channel think that dealing is all tricks, which to a degree it is trained mechanics, right? But so if I were to watch you do any of that stuff, I would tell you, you have to do with your tips, you have to take the chip, and when someone gives you the chip, you take it, tap it once, drop it in, or tap it twice and drop it in, and nothing else. And there is not supposed to be anything like this. So there is not supposed to be any opportunity for something to become out of sight. Part of the procedure here is to keep every single chip and every single card in full view of surveillance at all times.
All time.
So
they don't even let you cover the deck when you make when you do the
exactly, yeah. When you hold the deck like this, you're not supposed to do
kind of go like this, and they go like this, and it's wrong. You gotta keep it like,
nowadays, Joey, that's totally true. Nowadays, when you cut the deck, we'll put the cut card here. When you cut the deck, let's see where you can see it. You're supposed to cut it here and then fully square it up at this point and get it in your hand and always have it be square at that point. So there's like the WSOP started a thing where there's no more of this or this. Yeah, it's supposed to be just put it in the hand and go with no more touching at that point.
Wow.
And I always sort of looked at it from the perspective of, well, they want that because then the hand gets dealt quicker, but there could certainly be a preventative dynamic.
Mark, isn't that like really supposed to be like the square up so that like any loose shuffles is like,
you can do it. So here's what I'll say. If I have a messy deck right here, okay,
sure.
And let's say that I shuffled it and it came out. I don't know if you can see. It's sort of not clean. Maybe
a little bit.
Even worse here. Okay, when I cut it, if it's cut and it's not clean right here, I should be able to square it.
Okay, cool.
You can just take your hand.
That makes a lot
of sense. Put it on top.
And square it up as you pick it up, right?
Yeah, square it up as you pick it up. It should be. And I remember a couple dealers at Creek and the Hard Rock watched my shuffle video that I was proud of not long after it came out. and they were like looking at me like, you're not supposed to do that, because I did the thing that you were just talking about where you square it up at the end. And I never did a follow-up video to go with it to supplement the shuffle video, other than I did one live stream that covered it. But I mean, the point is, yeah, nowadays you're supposed to just cut and square as you're putting it in your hand. You have the time to do it. It gets more hands out that way. And apparently it prevents something that we've been talking about here that I didn't even realize.
I can think of a couple of things that can happen during that action.
Can you show us?
I think I do. So one thing that happens, let me create an example here with a couple of an ace king of hearts at the bottom, right? So at this moment over here, I'm supposed to cut the deck, right? I talked about earlier that there are a bunch of techniques you can use to cheat while dealing the cards, right? There's the second deal, there's the bottom deal. I gave a sloppy demonstration of a Greek deal, which is actually dealing the second card from the bottom here. And there's also the infamous center deal, when you actually deal a card directly from the center of the deck. So I have ace king here at the bottom. I'm going to use one hand to cut the deck right here. I do that. Can you guys see that? The little card just like that. If I pick it up.
To me, that looks normal. I see dealers do that all the time.
Yeah, this is very dangerous. This is absolutely freaking dangerous, because with this card, this actually called an in job. This is the terminology in magic industry. I can actually press it down like this, then push it in, and then acquire a little space with my pinky like that, which is called a break, right? Do you guys remember when I cut the deck, that ace and king went straight into the center? But that position that I'm marking right now, look, the ace and the king are right there, right? And if I'm actually skilled enough, I can try to deal those cards directly from the center. I don't think I'll be able to do that. I'm going to try just like this. Yeah, I think I lost the other card, but anyways, the king that was at the very bottom of the deck before I cut the deck is right here. If I actually was to deal the cards to myself, right? But I could do this card to any player. So when you cut the cards and you don't square them up, you could do that, right? You just cut like this, and you use index finger over here to just put a card.
Oh, so you're intentionally putting it out.
And then there's a marking over here. I can create a break over there and maybe deal a card from that position. If there's no surveillance and there are no cut cards, say for example we're in the worst underground game ever, there's a thing called the pass, which is a way of invisibly cutting the deck. So let me try to do an example over here. Let me grab a card that's more appealing. Say for example the king of spades over here. So I won't use cut cards. I'll just cut. I'll do that same thing, marking the position where the king was. Did you see any?
The average person saw nothing. The average person.
Yeah, from
the king is back on the bottom. It was in the center, but it's now back on the bottom. And now I can basically bottom deal it to myself, just like that.
From my perspective, working in casinos, I did see you cover the top of the deck, and I would say, as a supervisor, shift manager, director, whatever it is, when you see somebody covering the top of the deck, most of the time you don't want to go bother them. It's like you don't want to be a pain in the butt, right? So if I had no idea that you were able to do this type of stuff, and you managed to get yourself a job in a casino, I am one of the only people I know that does bother everybody. Okay, I know the feeling of not.
You do it in a good way.
Well, so you worked me. I super appreciate that for sure. I try to think that as well, and I bug people because I just want my room to be run the way that it's supposed to be run all the time. But there's a lot of people that would ignore that. That are supervisors. Yeah. So. But also I want to mention the cards coming out a little bit. So normally when you see a card or two coming out, because I made the comment, which is true, when the cut happens, a lot of the time you sometimes see that, just like Joey said, the dealer just goes like this with it a lot of the time. And so I think what you're saying is you do that same thing where you square it up too, but you do it and you create the little break in there so you can tell what's going on. And that's sort of mind blowing, not going to lie. And at the same time, you know, I appreciate you saying that you don't think that you could fool surveillance in most circumstances, because I'm starting to sweat a little bit over here, is what I'll say.
I didn't think that anything you just saw is possible, right, Mark? This is all news to you.
This is, well, I mean, it's new to me in the sense that I've watched a little bit of stuff that Joey's done in front of me, but we've always been in a casino. And I managed him very little when we were actually worked together, because he was mostly day shift, etc. And every once in a while, you know, I would run into him, but like, I'm not thinking about that stuff is the thing I'm trying to say. I'm not thinking about that stuff at all. I like when a dealer is entertaining to the players, and, you know, done in a way where it should be done. And also, like, the three people in this conversation right now, I've known Joey for a while now. I have met you actually in person video today, Magician Macedo, but it seems like integrity is just pouring out of the three of us, if I'm being honest, in terms of our normal way of thinking and operating in life. And I know that Joey's like that too. So I don't know, like, the conversation is really not about whether or not you could do it. It's about whether or not somebody else could do it, is sort of the point, right?
And that's where it's going to come down to, you know, it's, you know, magicians are very dangerous. It's like the Spider-Man thing. With great power comes great responsibility. And I don't have a mansion, and I don't even have a house. So obviously, whatever potentially might have happened, there was nothing monetary to be gained. And it was, you know, it's not something that everyone can do. And it's not something that, you know, I want to go on record and potentially saying that there was a potential burnout situation. So, you know, it wasn't something that where I was just like, oh, I'm going to, you know, beat the casino, or, you know, try to see if it worked. It was more like every day, you know, became the same type of dealing thing. And I wanted to just, you know, just mix it up. And then, you know,
and to that point, and I don't know if you have heard this, Magician Macedo, but being a poker dealer, it's an amazing experience for about a year.
Yeah.
In that first year, you're making more money than you've ever made. All of a sudden, your lifestyle is able to change, and people are just throwing you money, and you're learning how to be better and quicker and make even more money. After about a year, not everybody experiences this, but some people experience burnout, which comes from doing the same thing over and over and over again, where now the jokes are all the same. Like, I always tell any dealer to find their real personality, their authentic self, and bring that person to the table in order to make it so that they're not being a character. Because a lot of casinos teach dealers to be a certain person. You're supposed to have a specific type of customer service and all that type of stuff. And I don't teach that. I don't like that.
Robot, right?
Yeah. I like allowing somebody, you know, you got to understand what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, but you really want to bring your own genuine personality to the table whenever you can, right? Like, if you're a 50-year-old woman, and you have that motherly nature to you, bring that to the table, right? Just be your authentic self as much as you can within the job, because then it helps prevent some of that burnout. But burnout's the thing. And I think I'm hearing Joey say he got bored at times and was a little bit burned out. And especially if you've got him.
It happened in year 10. You know, it's not like
that's a long time to go.
You know, I went 15 years in the business, and it started at year 10. You know, like year 10, it was just like, and what they don't tell you is, you know, it's like you are kind of a dartboard a little bit, you know. So, you know, we are the pin cushions for everyone. You know, the floor and the players, if they're losing, and yada, yada, yada. So, you know, there's a lot that, you know, you have on your shoulders, not just, you know, everything. And, you know, after 10 years of it, I kind of, you know.
Well, we're certainly not coming at this from the perspective of blaming you for feeling that way. If you ever did anything that is fireable, we'll put it that way. If you ever did anything that's fireable, first of all, don't say it on this. But if you ever did anything that's fireable, I do understand what you're trying to say is that there's a lot of boredom. And so there's room as a magician, especially if you know that somewhat smarter than everybody else that's there, right? And I hate to say that, but I mean, it can happen a lot. By the way, an interesting fact for anybody that's watching, or maybe you, Magician Macedo, dealers often make more money than the floor. Joey mentioned at one point, pay a magician to be a supervisor and you'll get a lot out of that.
You will.
The reason that the dealers often make more money than the floor is because the floor get paid almost entirely by the casino in most cases. And the dealers, the more they deal, the more hands they get, the more likable they are, the more money they make. I mean, this is a crazy truth. Especially 10 years ago in Florida, maybe 15 years ago in Florida, it was not uncommon for dealers to go home with $1,000 a day. And it's just like, sometimes it could be unbelievable. Now that was a result of a specific circumstance in Florida with just the way that things were. But I mean, supervisors weren't making that for sure under any circumstance. That's why they have a tip out sometimes. But I do want to take a second and sort of go through some of these comments that have been here and sort of sitting that we've kind of left alone. Maybe if there's some questions, I'm going to look through this for a second, give us a chance to sort of say that. Let's see what we got here. Well, the first question is, well, we've got Greg said a while ago, I apologize for taking so long. The wash is important because it prevents people from accusing the house of fixing the deck. That reduces the chance of people knowing the top card. It's a cool little insight. And Greg is somebody that's a member of my channel, and he's learned a lot of the stuff that I have to offer, some of the courses that I have there. So I certainly wanted to highlight
Marc,
that.
If I may, Greg actually mentioned a situation where the dealer or other players can know that what the top card is at various moments, right? About that, I want to do a little demonstration too. So,
Sure.
for example, in underground tables, it's very common for people to use marked decks, right? These bicycle cards right here, they have tremendous potential of being a marked deck, right? You can very easily create a marking system that only you can read. I don't know if I'll be able to show this, but there's a part of the card right there. Let me see if I can actually, right there. You see like a little flower over there. You can use that to mark values. You can use that to mark the suit of the card, a bunch of stuff. I've taught all my paying students how to create a marked deck using bicycle cards, and it's phenomenal for Magic, and it can be devastating at a card game, right? So if people actually know the top card in various situations. Also, there are other ways of marking the cards, and I really think this is very important knowledge for professional dealers, because players handle the cards all the time. They get dealt the cards, and they look at the cards, and I've lost count of how many times I saw players doing that, bending the hell out of the cards to see what they are, and then leaving it like this. And if you compare, look at the bend I just put as those cards, right? And if I actually place these cards in the center of the deck, look at the discrepancy. You can see that from a mile away, And this is not the only way you can actually mark cards. There are a bunch of ways of crimping cards. This is the terminology in the Magic industry, which is actually called crimped cards, right? You can crimp the corner like this, create a little dog ear, as it is called. And if I center the card like that, you can actually see it from a mile away as well. And imagine if that bent card is right at the top of the deck like this. In this situation, the second card from the top. So if the dealer is going to open the flop right now, and some of the players know the value of this card, the bent corner is a 4 of clubs over there, he knows that the first card on the flop is going to be the 4 of clubs, and that can actually influence their decisions, right? So I think something that the dealers have to be careful of is to spot these bent cards, right? Because it can actually be used for tremendous opportunities of cheating, not just, actually knowing the value of the card, the suit of the card, but actually controlling the cards, right? For example, there are situations in card games where you're shuffling the cards, something like that, and then you have to pass the deck to the player on your left so he can cut the cards, right? Say, for example, I just created a corner crimp here at the card that is on the top. I pass the deck to the player on my left, he cuts, and it actually completes the cut. I can just by feel, actually locate that top card, the original top card, create that break again, and by means of a little, jiggling move like that, I can bring that card back to the top. You can see that the card actually has the corner over there. You see? So in a matter of, getting to know the value of the card and actually controlling the deck, this is very dangerous. Banned cards.
So I'm going to respond to that a little bit. That was really fascinating too, knowing that, because I've seen players do that type of thing a lot. I'm going to allow you guys both to be in a little bit. I've seen players do that type of thing a lot, where they unintentionally or intentionally mark the cards. I'm going to say mostly unintentionally. They're just sort of looking at them with their intents, like they want to squeeze the cards because they're used to table games and they got their finger down in it. So one thing I want to mention, plastic cards are used in poker. And plastic cards, you can still do that too, but it is definitely harder to get some of that stuff done. So I'm curious from the two of you's perspective, just real quick, because I have a lot to say on this too. Do you think it's harder to do that in plastic, or is that just me in my head?
It's just a little bit harder. Just a little bit.
But it's still pretty doable.
Force, and you can actually, you have a more chance of actually visibly damaging the cards. If I was to do the corner crimp, I would have to, pull a lot of force in there, and I could actually break the design of the card. The piece would actually be falling off like that, right? With a paper card, you can just put a light pressure, and it stays bent, just like that, right? Plastic cards, you have to be a little more tactical. And there are a million ways of marking cards this way, of creating crimps. You can actually use a special ring to press the card against the ring and create an indentation that you can actually feel by rubbing your finger on top, or depending on the light source, it reflects the light in a different way, and you can actually see that indentation made by the ring as well. There are a bunch of ways to mark cards like this.
Magic is incredibly subtle. So like as a dealer, you are instructed, if you see any type of a marked card, to let a supervisor know immediately. There's different language that you do to be subtle sometimes about that, such as you have a sticky deck is what is said in the industry sometimes. And then any card that is not perfectly clean and uniform is supposed to go and be replaced, and then it goes into a replacement deck. So at any given time, say you have 30 tables in your room, you probably have like 70 decks, or 70 setups is what they are. A setup is made up of 2 decks of different colored backs. And also it's worth saying, if you're in a casino, a marked card might get caught or stick in the shuffle machine if it's done too much. And it also, sometimes the machines are trained to, or programmed to put it to the top if something like that comes out. I've never tested it personally, because I've only sort of thought of it as a player maybe trying to do it, not thought of it as a dealer marking a card specifically who's a magician. So thank you for scaring me with that too. But yeah, the replacement cards, like if a card is marked, it does get put aside and it could absolutely be investigated and looked at later. And so I would almost say a magician, in order to be able to fool everybody for an extended period of time, would also probably have to be able to put it back to normal, which I don't know how easy that would be. Now you've said this. You said this.
Reverse the motion. You can do the pinky finger to be a little more deceptive. You notice there's a crimp card like this, and it's on top. I can just back it up a little bit and use my thumb over here to reverse that motion and disable that crimp completely. Right? It's still a little bit visible, but you wouldn't be, you wouldn't call as much attention as if it were up, right?
Well, believe it or not, though, as a dealer, when you first get a deck, you are sort of trained to look at it from the side. You do sort of, you see, because when you open a table, you get new decks there, basically. And sometimes when a player requests a setup change, or when the staff wants to do it for whatever reason, they want to do it and just change out decks on the table. The dealer has to inspect the deck, basically. So a dealer is supposed to go through and check every single card front and back. So even that little thing would possibly get caught. I mean, maybe Joey could speak more to that. I have no idea what Joey's experiments have been.
I'll tell you, with crimps and different methods, I never did it myself. I know of them. I have seen players, and you would be surprised, I've caught old women making crimps in the cards, and and usually, they're looking at their cards, and they're so like not educated enough, because when they do it, they crimp the high cards. So then you wouldn't even suspect it, but in the plastic cards from the casino, they're if you go too far with a crimp or a corner edge, it will be irreversible, and it'll need to
come out of play, basically. Yeah,
come out of play. So there were these older ladies that would just do the high card, and they would fold their cards, and then as they would get dealt back out, they would just look at people's hands for the corner crimp, and they would know if a lot of high cards were out. So if people were betting, and when I saw that and told the floor, they actually didn't believe that that's what they were doing. They thought that it was just a coincidence. That
so at a
all the high
different
cards, the kings, queens, and aces had a corner crimp. And I was saying that it was this 75-year-old woman, and they did not want to believe me, because they didn't believe that it was a 75-year-old woman trying to cheat the casino.
Nobody is naturally going to want to believe that. I have actually investigated to see, because I get pissed when I'm supervising and I see cards come back like that. I'm like, somebody's doing this, right?
Right.
So
right.
it turns into a bit of a hunt, and surveillance is a very good assistant to that. I have definitely banned people from the casino before for intentionally marking cards as players who were doing exactly what Joey just said. So that's an interesting perspective, though, too, that like specifically it was the older women. I haven't ever seen it be lovely old ladies myself,
but you would never suspect a lovely old lady of trying to cheat you out of your money, but they're the same ones that are going to curse you under their breath.
That's what 15 years does.
That's the first law of the gambling world. You have to call the least attention possible. You have to blend in with the other players. This lady, she has like professional training in cheating, I'm sure.
So something that you keep bringing up, Magician Macedo, is home games. Okay, so hopefully now, after watching any 5-minute segment of this video, let alone the whole thing, hopefully anybody now is much more likely to go play in a casino than they are in a home game. Because boy, I'll tell you what, if I don't have the protection of surveillance, at least on my side as a player, that sounds scary, seeing what you guys can do. And I'm like a huge fan of playing home games, right? But we saw it on Rounders. For anybody that has seen that movie, like, they do it in a game where they're playing with a bunch of police. Now, but that's a movie, right? It's different to be in a movie than in real life. But I don't have a doubt in my mind that you guys could do some crazy stuff in a home game, especially when there's no procedure.
I never deal. And there's a reason. In a home game, I never deal, and there's a reason for it. People that know I'm a magician, if I don't win, they're going to think I'm a bad cheater or a bad magician. And if I do win, I'm a cheater and I took their money. So it's a lose-lose situation. So I always just pass the deal, and I'm like, because, I'm sure you guys have played poker, and, I was losing. And then one time on my deal, it was a clean, I never did nothing, and I won. And he's cheating. He's magician. What are you doing? And so from that day forth, it's like, here, I passed the deal. Oh, yeah.
My situation is a little easier. Nobody plays with me. Everybody simply refuse to play with me. My fiance, she doesn't play with me.
It's smart. Looking at
that's pretty funny. Wow. I mean, so yeah, I also don't want to play with you because I'm like, I'm still sort of absorbing all this, if I'm being honest, right? I went to this conversation knowing that you guys are good.
It's definitely
but play poker online. Online you can't cheat, so easier. Man.
Let's see. What are some other comments that we had here? let's see. It says, Luca said, is it true that casino dealers need to know how to count cards in blackjack specifically, which is where that mostly applies? You know, I was a supervisor and I was loosely taught how to do it to the point where I could spot when it might be happening, and then I send it up to surveillance and they go back in the footage and they keep count with the players there. In poker, there's not really counting cards in my experience. But I mean, it is still a good question, right? Let's see some other questions that we have here.
It says somebody in the chat said, what kind of magic tricks, if any, would your two guests use as drills for professional casino dealers? I actually would continue shuffling on the table, practice cutting chips, but palming chips. Okay, not for the fact that you want to steal chips, but to practice palming chips as a magician gets your dexterity with your fingers so that when you can cut the chips, you can cut the chips really quick. So what I used to do was for the chips, I would practice palming 5 or 6 chips, build my muscle, and it kind of worked for magic and for when you have to do the chip cutting. So that was a drill. And then I got my hands stronger within the hands shuffling. So if you're a magician, shuffling in the hands might build your dexterity. You know what I mean? So those are 2 drills I would say that might go in with magic and poker dealing. And I'm sure maybe Magician Macedo would have another type of something potentially.
Yeah, if you're working on a house where the rules are kind of, you know, not very restricted, and you can actually, you know, play a little bit with the players, just show them something that is interesting, but not specifically related to cheating, flourishes. For example, one flourish I love to do at the table is the bridge, right? Joey showed that you can actually shuffle like this, right? This over here is called a bridge. Just like this, right? And there's a version of this you can actually do at the table. So you do a shuffle like this, which is a little more fancy, and you do that, you know? Just a little bit of a flourish.
I think
this,
it's interesting.
Like that, right?
I think I've seen Joey actually do that on a table before.
Don't tell anybody.
Shuffle. Have I seen the one-handed shuffle as well? Just like this. You can shuffle the cards with one hand.
What?
That's beautiful. Kind of scary, right?
It's beautiful.
That was amazing.
It's very entertaining.
That's fascinating. Another comment we have. So basically, if you want to be a dealer, it's better to never be a magician. I'm going to go ahead and agree with that because you won't be tempted is the way that I'm interpreting this right now. I imagine that
you won't have to, like, even when I didn't do something, people thought that I was doing something. Oh, he's a magician.
Too.
He's a magician. He's a magician. He's doing something. I don't trust him. I'm like, I'm not doing nothing, man. You just suck.
This is an interesting comment here. I'm really surprised to learn that the basic principles, not techniques, just principles like breaks, peeking of card magic are not known by the dealers. So I will attest and say that that is 100% true. This is something that I've been loosely aware of, but I've also been under the impression that it's almost like it almost like doesn't matter from the casino perspective because of how hard it would be to fool surveillance. But I've also been aware not to hire a magician, if that makes sense, right?
And I've never met anybody besides that the Asian dealer way back when that could do it other than myself. Because like Magician Macedo said, there's a very big difference between knowing how to do it and then doing it in front of 10 players. The amount of, I guess, testicular fortitude you might need at that time. And I'm not going to lie. In the beginning, it was, potentially it was nerve-wracking. But then, then it just becomes part of the deal. It's like a habit. You just, oh, look, I'm peeking at a card. I'm peeking at a card.
Man.
Oh, there goes a chip. The chip is going into the thing. Was that my tip? Oh, of course it was, and then it's nuts.
That's interesting. And he does Kanori says it's not a criticism, just convinced that it was the case that supervisors would know about all this stuff. And yeah, I mean, look, you know, this is on True Poker Dealer now, so maybe they will moving forward. It is also worth saying, just something that bugs me about the industry that I'm sort of working toward. There is no formal supervisor training anywhere. There's formal dealer training, but the supervisors are often just sort of put on the games to figure out how to do it as they go. They get a checklist of stuff. It takes a day. Like, the training is not that extensive. And as a result of it, the supervisors aren't as good as they could be. So, you know,
I've seen dealers fail the dealer audition and be offered a floor position.
It happens because, you know, honestly, sometimes the mentality, at least in the US, is we need a body.
That's
right. It's if you don't have anybody to do a job and you don't have anybody that's qualified, well, what do? You get somebody to do it. So that is something that happens, and it's sort of interesting to talk about. This comment's nice to say. So, wow, what a lovely chit chat due to chat, sir, true dealer, sir. I am True Poker Dealer. Please give me a lovely. So he's looking for the channels of you guys. So Magician Macedo, that's true. We did not put your channel in your name there. So can you just share it one more time?
Can I type it over here? The private chat? No.
You can. Let's see. If you go into your settings, you can edit name. If you go into your settings.
Yeah, but again, guys, I still don't have any content in English. My only content available right now is in Portuguese because my main channel is Brazilian, right? But I'm working on an English channel right now, and it should be up in the next few months or so, probably in the beginning of 2021. And you guys are going to be the first to know.
That's pretty exciting, and potentially we'll have you back on right as that's launching, so we can get you a little bit of a head start. Yeah. Let's see. This says right here, if a casino knew that I'm a magician, what would happen to me? Sorry about my terrible English. It was great.
Luca is actually one of my students, Luca Rangel.
So let me sort of answer this. I have worked with Joey in the past, like I said, and I did find out that he and one other dealer were magicians. I don't know that I would consider both of you to be on the same level, but I also know that I didn't know what I didn't know, like I said before. So the thing that I did was I came in there working after a lot of other people had already worked with them, and they'd been there for years. So I did nothing.
Right. And honestly, it's in, and I respected that. And yeah, it was kind of like, you know, like I was the veteran, and you know, I had been there a while, and it was just like, he's harmless, he's not doing anything, you know. And yeah, he could have easily came up and, you know, said, hey, listen, I heard you're a magician, I would really appreciate it if you just don't do any tricks while I'm on the floor. And I would have been like, absolutely, no problem.
And also, for what it's worth, I mean, this is me talking about me, but when I come in and I start working with people, I sort of get to know everybody on as deep of a level as I can. The reason that I do it when I'm running the rotation, like, because the supervisors are the ones that tell the dealers what tables to go deal, right? I do it because I want to learn what people want and their preferences, because at any given moment when you've got, say, 20 tables going and 25 dealers to cover those 20 tables, if you're a really good supervisor or manager, you're sort of able to create win-win situations for everybody, where everybody's able to. I enjoy what you're doing over there, Magician Macedo.
That's so cool.
I like it a lot. Yeah, that's cool. I just want to highlight that for a second. But yeah, I was trying to create win-win situations, so I sort of had to get to know the dealers, know who wants to work more, know who wants more breaks, know who wants. Like, one thing that Joey loved was when I would pay attention to the things that he would do that were on his own for the good of the room and thank him for them, right? Yep, things that maybe he didn't have to do. Huge. And, you know, just understanding that type of stuff. Yep. So in the process, I got to know his character, is my point. So yeah, but at the same time, it's definitely, I mean, if you're coming into a new room and they find out pretty quickly that you're a magician, they might start investigating you with surveillance. I also didn't come in as a director of a room. I didn't come in as a shift manager. I had been a shift manager in the past at a different room. I came in and I was a supervisor, dual shift. So There's so many answers to that. That's part of why we say either don't be a magician who's a poker dealer or don't tell anybody, and also make sure that you have integrity all the time, because if you do get fired for that, that's probably it for you in your career as a poker dealer.
You're
pretty hard to bounce back from that. Yeah.
You're definitely
a lot of surveillance departments communicate with one another as well. This is a question here. I have no idea what this means, so I'm going to put this here, and we'll start with Magician Macedo. Any idea what this is?
Yep. Riffle stacking is actually a way of organizing cards for, say for example, I'm stacking 2 10s. And through the action of legit riffle shuffles, organize the cards at the top, so when I deal, they actually fall in my hand, or a partner's hand, for example. Let me see if I can do a demonstration over here. Let's take kings, actually. Aces. I found a pair of aces right here.
So we're putting you on the spot here, and we're seeing what you got. That's pretty cool.
Sure. So let's say, for example, I was able to control these aces to be on top, right? I'm going to leave them face up so you guys can follow. The idea is to actually riffle shuffle and place cards in between those aces, like so. And even if I cut the cards, for example, like this, I organize these aces to fall to my hand in a 4-handed game. So I'll deal 3 cards, then a card for myself. So 1, and I'm actually dealing fairly, okay? No cheating here involved. So I place these cards here, and see there's an ace for myself. I deal again, and there's another ace for myself. It would be something like this, but this is a very simple demonstration of riffle stacking. You can stack 3, 4, 5 cards for example, 5-handed games, 8-handed games. It's incredibly difficult, and I can actually show you guys why in a more visual way. So let me grab the other ace over here. I'm not going to do it legitimately. I'm going to actually to show you guys what would be the structure of riffle stacking. Say, for example, there are 4 aces here on the top. And say, for example, I'm going to stack these 4 aces for a 5-handed game this time. So imagine, I have to split the deck for a riffle shuffle. And in order to receive these aces every 5 cards, I have to put 4 cards in between each ace over here, right? So I would have to find a way to stop the riffle here at 4 cards and stop over here with 5 cards, which I actually suck, actually 4 cards. So I'll place 4 cards right there, and then you square up the cards, just like this. And if you see, 3 aces over here, 4 in different cards, and the other ace. Now I have to place other 4 cards in here, and on top. It's very, very difficult. I've tried before, getting a little bit better in this technique, but it's absolutely difficult. The only thing I can do efficiently is to stack 2 cards. It's very difficult. Joey, did you know about this stuff?
So riffle stacking, in my opinion, is the hardest thing in card magic to do, because one false move of your thumb and you got 6 cards instead of 5.
Yeah.
I used to watch an old VHS by the name of Steve Forty, and he was a guy that he came out with a protection series for gambling, but in reality it was slowed down so slow that if you had a brain, he was actually instructing you without you realizing it, because it's going, this is the magician overhand shuffle, you know what I mean? So I personally can't do it, but what I did find out with when I was on a table dead spread, which is when you are sitting alone, I would practice dead spreading with, I would practice riffle stacking with the Pharaoh shuffle, because I found that if I can get a perfect Pharaoh and 5 times, it would work. Because if I could do this 5 times, it would work. But it wouldn't work at the casino, but it still would be a good, efficient version of riffle stacking. But You can't use it in a home game. It would be more for a display. But the short answer is no, I do not know how to riffle stack. Excuse me, I do know how to riffle stack. I do not perform riffle stacking as a casino dealer. For fun, in a gambling routine, I would show it, but it is very, very difficult to perform.
I think Marc is a little bit confused. I can see his face. He's not understanding Jack.
So I first of all, I appreciate the call out, and yeah, I have a poker face. I have a poker face when I'm playing poker, but in this, I'm always stunned. So the first thing that I think I got from this is do not put a magician on a dead spread. Okay, like.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard of a dead spread, Magician Macedo?
No, actually not.
So basically, say that it's 5 p.m. in the evening, and that's when people start finishing up eating and start coming to the casino where you're opening up more tables, okay? You want to have dealers ready to go as soon as a game is ready to open. And so oftentimes, in addition to dealers on break, you'll keep 1 or 2 in the room so that you can open a game at a moment's notice. Well, while they're there, they have a deck and they're protecting a bank that has chips in it, and they're just sort of sitting. And so they might start chatting with people, et cetera. And so it's the type of thing that you generally don't monitor. Like, you don't want the dealers touching the gaming equipment, but I got to tell you, it's just not worth making it so that they're so bored and sitting there like this, facing forward like they're supposed to, especially at a casino that's sort of lax. So there's a lot of times where, you know, a dealer will just be sitting there, and if they're a magician, they'll be doing exactly what Joey said. And in terms of me not understanding what you guys were talking about, I understood what you were doing in theory, Magician Macedo, and the concept behind it. I didn't really understand the benefit of Joey being able to riffle that way, because it doesn't represent the casino riffle at all.
Right. I can't. I mean, I could riffle stack. I mean, it's not going to look good, you know. This is how a riffle stack would look for the casino. And every time I hold back 1 card and I just won. But remember, you'd need to do it like Magician Macedo said, sometimes 4, 6, 7 cards in between. So you really need to get a good feeling of 7 cards that you could drop. And that's why I believe the saying is the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. Yeah. Like, it wasn't worth practicing that, because the chances of being able to do it, now you're really screwing with the deck. Now you're trying to screw people over. If you're going to riffle stack, that means you're stacking the deck. So the person who knows about it in the comments, he knows that to riffle stack is a huge gambling thing, and it's usually done in home games, because the magician would never even make it look like he's a magician. You know, like maybe you've heard of Leonard Green, Magician Macedo. So when he used to shuffle, he looked like he didn't know what he was doing, but he was one of the best shufflers, false shufflers in the world. But when you looked at it, it was all, you know, like, oh, you know, like really sloppy stuff. And it was all false shuffles. So now we're talking, to be able to fool casino players, you have to look like a dealer, not a magician, and be able to fool them. It wasn't worth it for me.
That's all pretty fascinating. I do want to give a shout out to Joey. It's your birthday today, and I held it until toward the end because I thought it would be fun for nobody to know that.
Thank you so much. 36 today.
Big happy birthday, man.
Thank you so much. This was a blast. I mean, Magician Macedo is great. I'm gonna follow him after this. This is great.
Dude, I wish I understood Portuguese, because like, you're funny too. I watched some of your stuff without even understanding it and found myself laughing because the facial expressions that you use and the way that you pause the video at times. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I know that humor, so to speak. Exactly. There's a comment here. If dealers don't know about it, then why worry? It's manager's job to look for it. I think so. I've always known that I don't know anything about magic. And as someone that's been a manager, I think it's easy for someone outside of it to just say they need to know this stuff, right? It's easy to just put it on the casino to always know this stuff. But as we're finding out here, this stuff is hard to figure out. And it takes at the very beginning of this, my brain went like this when the two of you were just laughing and joking about how 8 hours of training for Magic every day is nothing. And I'm just like, wow. When
you're a magician, you get lost. You just like the cards become like your life. I don't know how to explain it. It's just like I have severe anxiety, and whenever I get anxiety, I pick up a deck of cards and I start doing a couple of cuts, and then it helps me, it helps me feel better, I don't know. And then, Roxanne would be like, you've been 5 hours with those cards. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'm just having fun.
Interesting. Is that similar for you, Magician Macedo?
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you get into Magic and you start searching for stuff and you start, getting to know different YouTubers and performers and people that actually sell downloads that you can buy and learn a bunch of stuff, there's so much stuff out there that you can, just like Joey said, you get lost just like that. And it becomes a passion much larger than you ever could have imagined.
It's 100%.
A deck of cards is my main career. I don't do anything else.
$2.95. He goes inside Walgreens. He comes out being able to entertain for minimum 60 minutes. Just watching what he can do. He goes into Walgreens for $2.95. He comes out being able to entertain all of us for an hour. That's amazing in my book,
My hands sort of feel like they're feet when I watch you guys do all that stuff. Like, I'm just like, how do these things? Oh, gosh, that's pretty crazy. Vegas Aces, again, Vegas Aces is a channel on YouTube and I'm very friendly with Heather, and she's the one that showed me how to do this live stream. So I just have to pay homage here. And she's nice enough to say this is a great video, much appreciated. Thank you. And she added it to her additional information playlist, and I totally get it. This has been amazing so far. We are going to wrap it up pretty soon, maybe a few more minutes, just a couple more comments if there's some here. I'm sort of looking through. Real quick question. How did you do the trick with the chip that was tipped to you that flew up into your hand above, and what was it called? I want to learn it. Maybe just a quick answer for what it's called first.
Sure. It's called the muscle pass. It's done with the muscle inside your palm, and it could be done with coins. I recommend a silver dollar and holding onto it really tight all day. It's going to build these muscles inside, and basically the muscle shoots it up, and over again, it gets higher and higher. You could do it from the side, and all you're doing is shooting it with your palm. Okay. So I'm going to put
shoot it? Yeah. Shoot it right at the camera for us.
Okay. So look, you have it here, and then now you're going to apply pressure, and then it's just going to fly. You can see that? So you got like this, you apply pressure with the thumb, and then it just shoots right out. And then when you do it up, it looks like it falls up. When you do it to the side, it looks like, it's going to take practice. It's not something that happens. Like, everyone wants to be a magician with 1 second, man. But this, I think you remember feeling it, Marc. That muscle that was there,
yeah.
A rock,
I know what you're talking about, and I have no interest in spending the time that it must take in order to be able to do that.
And it was just something that I never did. I watched magicians do it. I loved it. And then I said, man, if I did that with my tip, I bet you somebody throws me another $1. So sure enough, it comes. I said, hey, check this out. And I would scratch it. And I would say, hey, when you put static on it, it falls up. And they'd be like, and instantly you'd see all the players at the table trying to like, put their it was fun. It was fun.
Of course.
That's amazing. Well, I super appreciate both of you spending all this time here.
It was a blast.
And this has been the most fun I've ever had on a live stream on YouTube by far.
This is fun.
And Magician Macedo, I want to give you a lot of credit. This was essentially your idea to come on here and do this stuff. And I just sort of went along with it, and I forced myself to figure out how to put a live stream together because of how fun I thought this would be. And again, I want to thank
that, really. Thank you so much. I really love being here.
Oh, absolutely. And there's plenty more that we could probably talk about in the future as well. I want to give you a chance, since this was all your idea, I want to give you a chance to say anything that you want at the end here. If there's anything else.
As I said in the beginning, I don't know if all of you guys were watching since we started, because it's already into 2 hours of streaming.
Wow, was it really 2 hours?
2 hours and 19 minutes right now.
I enjoyed spending.
Yeah, this is for entertainment purposes only, guys. This is never meant to be like a tutorial to teach you guys how to cheat the casino and of course the home games, right? Because people see this stuff and say, "Oh, I play cards at home all the time with my family. I'm gonna try and cheat right there," right? My family, of course, they play card a lot. They always try to convince me to teach them how to do crooked stuff, and I always say no, right? As I mentioned, of course, I have the 3 courses that I run here in Brazil. One of them is the gambling course, which teaches people exactly how to use these techniques to, you know, create entertainment displays of gaming situations, and never to use these techniques, this skill, to actually cheat, right? Because who would I be if I actually proposed to my students to do that, right? So this is basically for entertainment purpose only. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I really want to thank you, Marc, again for the opportunity to have me here, and it was very fun. I see a bunch of people still commenting on that stuff, and I can't wait for part 2 of this stream. I would be very happy to be part of that.
That sounds good. We do have a request to show shuffle tracking, but I think we're going to have to save that for later. But I do appreciate all the people who
show. So whenever you want to schedule part 2, I'm down.
That sounds great. I would love to do more of this. And yeah, thank you to the both of you for being here. And
thank you, man. I'm glad that I could kind of bridge the gap between magic and poker. You know, 2 very big parts of my life. And as you know, Marc, dealing, I took an incredible amount of pride in being probably one of the best dealers that I could be. And I tried, you know, and I loved it. And to be able to bridge it with Magician Macedo is my honor. Thank you.
Oh, well, absolutely. And thank you guys for sharing that side. And I do also think it's worth mentioning, right? Like you said, you had a lot of pride as a dealer and being a good dealer. I mean, it's got to be tough when you're sitting there and you know you are capable of so many interesting things.
It was honestly one of the hardest things to do, because at any moment, especially when I got to a point where I knew I could do it. Okay, I'll just say that it was so hard to not want to screw somebody that's telling me, "I hope you die, and I hope that, you know, your family is terrible." And it takes every ounce of me to not say, "You know what? I'm going to kill you on the river." You know what I mean? I know what you're looking for, you know, and I didn't, because that's the integrity part. You know, you go into this job with pros and cons, and one of the cons is you're a little pincushion and you got to have a thick show.
Yeah, and to that point, first of all, it's interesting that you were speaking from the perspective of knowing that you can do it. Magician Macedo, you know, if you've never been in the box as a dealer, especially in America, you never received the blame for the fate of the person's money that's playing, right? So the poker players are notorious for attacking dealers verbally, and some rooms handle it and some rooms don't. And you know, there's a mentality as a dealer that has been in the industry for a long time that I don't personally teach, but I know that it exists. It's called shut up and deal, where you're supposed to have thick skin, and it entitles people to players to be rude. And I have seen many players be rude to many dealers, and I've kicked out many players, probably more so than the average supervisor. But you know, holding on to your pride when you know you can do stuff, and especially if Joey's saying that he knows that he maybe can put a river out that he wants, which it makes me uncomfortable to hear, but it is what it is, right?
It is what it is. You know, I could put any river, not any river, but I could change the river. Put it that way. I could change the turn. I could change the flop. And when you think about that, you know, it is dangerous. And I don't know many people that could have not wanting to screw people, you know, like luckily, you know, I was raised with a lot of good morals, and I knew to myself that that would be so wrong, that the karma would come back so bad, you know, to try to, just because this guy's having a bad day and he's losing money and he's calling me a piece of crap, I'm not going to make it worse for him. You know what I mean? Even though I could, I'm not going to, you know.
And to that point, surveillance does have a shot to catch you and ban you if you ever do anything like that too. And I don't want you to answer this, but I'm sort of curious if you think that you could beat that too with what you're saying, but don't answer that, please.
Beat what?
Don't answer it. Doesn't matter. Beat surveillance reviewing after the fact, et cetera, if they were really looking for it. Say that Joey's there.
Like,
Yeah.
Remember when you said in the beginning that they target you, and that, you know, to be smart, you're going to have to know that if you're being targeted, that's the end of it. You know, that's.
Gotcha.
And, you know, there you go.
Well, thank you guys so much. And I'll say thank you everyone for commenting again. This has been really fascinating, and I'm excited for the next time. So I'm going to say bye, and we'll see you guys next time.
Have a great day. Stay safe.